Yo, what's up guys? idiotMOUSE here, and I am very excited to launch my new YouTube channel with a widely requested video on how to improve at Realm Royale. I've compiled some of my favorite tips into a 7-step guide to take you from a total beginner to a relatively decent player. In addition to this video, if you have never played Realm Royale before, I would recommend watching Baggins TV's beginner guide to Realm Royale as well. I'll link that in the description below. With these two videos, you'll be way ahead of the competition and you're going to become a great player quickly. If you are an experienced player, then feel free to head down to the description and click one of the timestamps to head to your desired section so you can skip the beginner stuff. With that being said, if you have any questions, let me know, and let's get started. Step 1. Commit to a class. Your first few days of Realm should be spent trying out each individual class and learning their playstyles. Forge as much as you can, learn the abilities, and learn what each class is good at. Once you have a grip on the different niches that each class fills, it's time to commit to a single class. This is going to be your main. The objective here is to completely master one class inside and out before moving on to another class. It's very easy to get frustrated when you keep dying as a beginner and blame the class you're playing, but trust me, don't switch your class. If you can break through this plateau, you will improve much faster than if you are consistently bouncing around from mage to assassin to hunter to warrior. You will know that you're improving when you can start to win the mirror match consistently, which basically means you are able to successfully 1v1 against your own main class. In my opinion, the best class for beginners is warrior, followed by hunter, followed by assassin, followed by mage. This could change in future iterations of the game. Step 2. Master one zone at a time. While some players may disagree, I would encourage you to land in the same zone every single game. It doesn't have to be the same exact spot, but be constantly landing in the same zone so you can fully understand that one specific area. Learn the chest spawns, the advantageous positions, learn common drop spots for other players so you can know when and where to expect fights. I recommend starting with Lumber Fall, Jade Garden, Fungal Forest, and Crossing. These zones are all decently populated and have good or efficient loot. Additionally, the majority of fighting in Realm Royale happens in these zones since they are towards the middle of the map. The better you understand these zones and every corner within them, the faster you're going to improve. I would not recommend dropping in zones like Forbidden Swamp, Trinity Hills, or other outside areas when you first start the game. These zones usually take much longer to loot and have less people. The last thing you want to do is spend 5 minutes looting just to die right away when you move to the next zone. Once you start consistently dominating the early game in your chosen zone, you can then select the next one to move on to and master. To me, map knowledge is one of the most powerful tools in the game. Having extensive knowledge of every angle and where you can find the best cover not only will help you win 1 versus 1s, but will also help prevent you from getting third-partied. Step 3. Don't be a little Timmy. Little Timmy is a camper. Little Timmy doesn't care about improving. All he cares about is camping in houses and waiting for the fog to move in. Be the opposite of little Timmy. Don't camp and get in as many fights as possible. That's why you should be dropping in more populated areas. The more fights you get into, the better you will become at the game. Your focus right now isn't on winning matches. It's on learning your class, learning the map, learning the weapons, and learning the abilities. Even if you camp and get second place, that doesn't mean anything if you only got 1 kill. You will become a better player by getting in 5 fights and getting 50th place than if you get in 1 fight and get first. So go out and fight. Step 4. How to determine if you should even take a fight in the first place. Alright, I know I just said go out and fight as much as possible, and while that is true, you should be fighting as much as possible as long as there is a reasonable chance of winning that fight. So, how do you determine if a fight is worth taking? Well, the first thing you should be doing is comparing the loadout and position that you have to the information that you have on your opponent. If you only have gray weapons, and you see your opponent in the kill feed with a legendary venom pistol, you probably are at a major disadvantage. If you are at the bottom of a hill with an heirloom rifle, and your opponent is on top with a longbow, it's probably better to run away than it is to fight. Maybe it's early game and you only have 500 HP and no potions. Again, probably better to look for loot before fighting. You guys get the picture. These are all different things to consider before you fight someone. Take the information you have on your opponent's position and loadout in comparison to yours. Who has more advantages? Another personal rule that I like to follow is to always assume my opponent is at full HP unless I know otherwise. This will allow me to estimate how many shots it will take to kill them based on my current weapon in comparison to how many shots it will take them to kill me. Lastly, there are always exceptions. Maybe you have a very advantageous position over your opponent. Maybe they're in an open field and you have high ground. In this instance, even if you have low HP and gray weapons, it might be okay to engage. Use your best judgment. Step 5. Creating advantages with position. Alright, so we found a fight that's worth taking that we can win. Based on the information that we have on our opponent compared to our current loadout, it seems like a reasonable fight. Now, how can we quickly build even more advantages before the fight even begins? Well, the first and most obvious is by getting a better position. Instead of just running into a fight, I will determine if there is an advantageous position I can get to before engaging. This usually means high ground. If I can reach high ground in a short amount of time, knowing that I will still be able to engage my opponent, I will almost always take that opportunity to do so. High ground allows you to have a bigger field of view on your opponent, making it harder for them to hide. It's easier to hit headshots, and it provides the best cover since you can peek at your own leisure. Another thing to consider if you're taking a fight head-on instead of finding a better position is, what if your opponent has a movement ability that allows them to get to the high ground? This will spell disaster for you because you'll be stuck on the low ground. In the majority of my fights, if high ground is available, I will spend the extra 5 to 10 seconds to get there rather than just rushing in. Lastly, when you are closing in on the final zones of the game, you need to be using your knowledge of the map to position in favorable spots ahead of time. Getting high ground in the last zone before anyone else is one of the best ways to set up favorable fights. The more you play, the more you're going to learn which spots are best to position in the late game. Step 6. Creating advantages with right peeking. Another way to use advantage to your position is by right shoulder peeking. In Realm Royale, your character holds their weapon in the right hand. This means that your crosshair will be available to shoot when peeking from the right side of an object, sooner than it would be available to shoot from the left side. Another way to look at it is, if I am peeking around the right side of an object, and my opponent is peeking from their left side, I will be able to see part of their character model before they can see mine, giving me an extra second to line up a shot and shoot them. When fighting in Realm Royale, the vast majority of the time, I'll be trying to peek around the right side of corners, bushes, trees, and doorways. If you can force your opponent to peek around the left side when you have the right, you will always have the advantage. There are some exceptions to this rule. Perhaps you know your opponent is low on HP, or maybe you have a significantly better weapon than them and can tank the damage. And sometimes you'll even just want to switch up your peeking pattern. But peeking from the right side of corners should almost always be a priority when fighting. Try it for yourself and see if you notice the difference between left peeking and right peeking. Step 7. Creating advantages by maximizing the value of your spells. Alrighty, so we've determined the fight is worth taking. We have relocated to the best position possible. What else can we do to get an advantage? Well, in my opinion, this is the most important tip and probably the biggest learning curve in Realm Royale. It's getting more value out of your abilities than your opponent gets out of theirs. Before any fight, I will loosely predetermine how I want to use my abilities based on what I know my opponent has. If I know my opponent has Firebomb and I have Ghost Walk, I know to save my Ghost Walk for when my opponent uses that spell. If I know they have a Concussion Grenade, I will save my movement ability for when they toss it at me. Going in with a loose plan of how to use your abilities is better than going in and spamming every ability you have, only to be caught off guard by them having an unexpected spell and all of your abilities being on cooldown. In short, you should be doing your best to plan out how the fight will go based on the information you have. Not only that, but plan how you can use your abilities on a deeper level to get more value. In a novice player's eyes, Ice Block and Ghost Walk are simply defensive tools you can use to prevent damage. In a pro player's eyes, Ice Block and Ghost Walk not only prevent damage, but allow you to control the pace of a fight. Let's take a look at an example. Notice how not only did I absorb damage with Ice Block and Ghost Walk, but I'm able to cancel them at my leisure, allowing me to start the fight again at a time known only to me, not my opponent. Why is this important? Because then I get to shoot first, giving me even more of an HP advantage. There are tons of abilities that provide more value than they appear to at first glance. Proximity Mine, Flare, Wall, Concussive Grenade, Blast Arrow, and more are all incredible spells that have significantly more value in a great player's hands than a novice's. I will often take gray or green proactive spells, like some of the ones I listed above, over purple or legendary reactive spells. I'll be doing specific videos on each of these spells and how to get the most value out of them, but for now think about how you can possibly squeeze every bit of value out of your spells, and how you can use them proactively to put your opponent on the back foot rather than reactively. There are even situations where maybe I have a legendary spell, but based on position, I equip a gray spell that I found nearby for this one specific fight. I have dropped legendary wall for gray concussive grenade dozens of times, simply because I'm fighting on a hillside or a cliff. Remember, every ability has a specific niche that it is usable in. So it seems like a lot. There are probably a dozen questions I ask myself before I fight someone, but because I've been doing it for so long, I'm able to ask the questions and answer them in the snap of a finger. The more fights you take, the quicker you will become at analyzing situations before they even happen. Some pro players might even say I think too much, but in my eyes, it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. With that being said, let me know any questions you guys have in the comment section, or pop by my stream and I'll be happy to help. I have a lot of content similar to this video on the way, but I'm always looking to hear what you guys want to see more of, so let me know what you would like to see in future videos. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.